You probably did laundry this week. You threw clothes in a machine, added detergent, pressed the button, and walked away. Maybe 45 minutes later, your clothes were clean. But what if I told you that before washing machines, doing laundry for a family of four took an entire day of back-breaking labor? That women drowned in rivers while washing clothes? That they suffered chemical burns from caustic lye soap? That they died from exhaustion, scalding, and infections caused by laundry work? And what if I told you that the invention that freed women from this brutal labor was created by multiple forgotten female inventors who got absolutely no credit, while male engineers claimed their innovations and became wealthy? I'm Julian Vane, and this is The Parts That Made Us. This is the complete history of the washing machine, from ancient Roman fooling mills that process cloth with human urine, to the washing women who literally worked themselves to death, to a modern pandemic that made us realize we'd been doing laundry wrong for decades. The year is approximately 3000 BC, somewhere along the Nile River in ancient Egypt. A woman kneels at the riverbank with a pile of linen clothing. She soaks each garment in the river, then places it on a flat rock and beats it repeatedly with a wooden paddle. The force of the beating drives water through the fabric, forcing out dirt and oils. This is the original washing machine: rocks, water, and violence. The beating method worked because it created mechanical action, the fundamental principle behind all washing. You need to physically agitate fabric to dislodge dirt particles embedded in the weave. Without agitation, water alone does almost nothing. But the beating method was absolutely brutal on both the clothes and the person doing it. Hours of repetitive pounding destroyed fabric fibers, wearing out clothes quickly. It destroyed human bodies even faster. Kneeling on rocks for hours caused permanent knee damage. The repetitive motion caused chronic shoulder, elbow, and wrist injuries. And drownings were common. Women slipped on wet rocks, got caught in currents, or were swept away during floods. Ancient Romans developed a more sophisticated system called fooling for processing cloth. They built large stone basins where workers, called foulones, would trample cloth in a mixture of water and stale urine. Yes, urine. The ammonia in urine broke down oils and acted as a primitive detergent. The foulones would stomp on the cloth for hours, sometimes days, in these urine baths. The work was considered so degrading that it was reserved for the absolute lowest classes. The smell was reportedly unbearable. Workers developed skin infections from constant exposure to urine and dirty water. Respiratory problems from ammonia fumes were common. For regular household laundry, Roman women still used the beating method at rivers or public fountains. Wealthy Romans had slaves do their laundry. Everyone else, meaning most women, spent significant portions of their lives beating wet fabric against rocks. When the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD, laundry practices regressed even further. Medieval Europeans washed clothes rarely, sometimes just a few times per year, because the labor required was so immense. The typical medieval laundry process went like this. First, you hauled water. If you lived near a river or stream, you carried wet laundry to the water source. If not, you carried dozens of gallons of water to your home in buckets or jugs. Just the water hauling alone could take hours and was physically exhausting. Second, you made soap. Medieval soap was made from wood ash lye mixed with animal fat. The lye was caustic enough to cause severe chemical burns. Women who made soap regularly had scarred, damaged hands from lye exposure. Splash it in your eyes and you could go blind. Get it on your skin and it would burn through to deeper tissue layers. Third, you heated the water. This meant maintaining a fire large enough to heat gallons of water to near boiling temperatures. In summer, this made the work area unbearably hot. Burns from scalding water were extremely common. Women died from infections caused by burn wounds. Fourth, you soaked and agitated the clothes. This meant stirring heavy, wet-logged fabric with wooden poles, or getting into the tubs and trampling the clothes with your feet, or laying them out and beating them with paddles. Hours of this work in hot, steamy conditions caused heat exhaustion and dehydration. Fifth, you rinsed everything. Multiple rinse cycles, each requiring fresh water, more hauling, more agitation. Sixth, you wrung out the clothes by hand. Twisting heavy, wet fabric requires enormous grip strength and causes severe hand and wrist strain. Doing this for hours meant chronic pain and eventual permanent damage to joints and tendons. Finally, you hung everything to dry. In winter, or during rain, this meant clothes stayed damp for days, creating ideal conditions for mildew and bacteria. The entire process took 8 to 12 hours of intensive physical labor. Some sources suggest large family washes could take 2 full days. This was genuinely dangerous work. Women were scalded by boiling water, burned by lye, exhausted to the point of collapse, and suffered cumulative injuries that crippled them by middle age. And this doesn't even account for drowning deaths. Laundry at rivers was so hazardous that many communities had special washing stones or constructed areas, but accidents still happened constantly. Women slipped into deep water, were swept away by currents, or drowned when their heavy skirts became waterlogged and dragged them under. In pre-industrial Britain, Laundry Day was genuinely feared. It was typically Monday, which is why we still sometimes call it Blue Monday. The entire household routine was disrupted. Meals were simpler because the kitchen was occupied with laundry work. Children were often neglected because mothers spent the entire day focused on washing. Injuries were common enough that communities expected it. By the 1700s, commercial laundries emerged in cities, but they were essentially sweatshops where poor women worked in brutal conditions for poverty wages. The washerwomen of London, Paris, and other cities worked 12 to 16 hours daily in hot, humid laundries, breathing steam and chemical fumes, developing chronic respiratory problems, arthritis, and skin conditions. The mortality rate among laundry workers was genuinely shocking. They died young, often in their 30s or 40s, from infections, exhaustion, respiratory disease, or workplace accidents. But because they were poor women, their deaths weren't documented or investigated. They simply disappeared from the workforce and were replaced by new, desperate women who needed work. By the way, if you're finding this history fascinating, you're exactly the kind of person who appreciates discovering the hidden stories behind everyday objects. If you want to learn more about the parts that made us who we are today, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, let's continue with the most heartbreaking part of this story. The first mechanical washing devices appeared in the late 1700s, and here's where the historical record becomes deliberately misleading. Patent offices credited men with inventing washing machines, but the actual innovations often came from the women who did the laundry and understood what was needed. In 1797, Nathaniel Briggs received a U.S. patent for a washing machine. The patent documentation was destroyed in a fire, so we don't actually know what his machine looked like or if it even worked, but he's listed in history books as an early inventor. What history books don't mention is that women across America and Europe were building their own washing contraptions using barrels, paddles, and cranks. These women weren't filing patents. Many couldn't read or write, and patent fees were expensive. They were just trying to survive Laundry Day without destroying their bodies. The first washing machine designs that actually worked used a rotating drum or agitator mechanism to replicate the beating and agitation that washing required. And many of these designs came from women watching commercial laundries and thinking, this could be mechanized. Margaret Colvin, a black woman in New Jersey, invented an improved washing machine in the 1870s, but couldn't get proper credit because of racial and gender discrimination. Ellen Elgin, another black female inventor, sold her washing machine patent rights for just $18 because she feared white competitors would steal her invention anyway if she tried to market it herself. The most commercially successful early washing machine was patented by William Blackstone in 1874. He built it as a birthday present for his wife. The Blackstone machine had a rotating drum and manual crank, and it actually worked reasonably well. But Blackstone didn't invent the concept, he just successfully commercialized what women had been trying to build for decades. The machine was still entirely manual. You still heated water, still used harsh soap, still cranked the handle for 20-30 minutes, still wrung everything by hand. But it reduced laundry time from 8 to 12 hours to maybe 4 to 5 hours. That was revolutionary. The first electric washing machine appeared in 1908, invented by Alva J. Fisher, another man credited with inventing the washing machine. But the electric motor was the innovation, not the washing mechanism, which women and previous inventors had already developed. These early electric machines were genuinely dangerous. They had exposed electrical components that could electrocute users, especially when water inevitably splashed on them. They had powerful wringers, rollers that squeezed water from clothes, that could catch hands, arms, or hair and cause devastating crushing injuries. Children died when they fell into operating washing machines. Women were electrocuted. Hands and arms were mangled in wringers. But even with these hazards, electric washing machines were safer than the boiling water, caustic lye, and physical exhaustion of manual washing. The mechanism of how washing machines actually work is elegant in its simplicity. The rotating drum or agitator creates mechanical action, moving water and fabric relative to each other at high speed. This generates friction between the fabric surfaces and forces water flow through the weave. Modern detergents add surfactants, molecules with one end that bonds to water and one end that bonds to oils and dirt. The mechanical agitation allows these surfacting molecules to surround dirt particles and lift them away from fabric. The suspended dirt particles are then rinsed away. The spin cycle uses centrifugal force to pull water out of fabric. At high speeds, water is forced through the fabric and thrown outward to the drum walls where it drains away. This removes far more water than hand wringing could, reducing drying time significantly. By the 1950s, automatic washing machines were becoming standard in middle-class American homes. The impact on women's lives was genuinely revolutionary. Women who'd spent 8 to 12 hours per week on laundry could now spend maybe 2 to 3 hours loading machines, moving loads, and folding. This freed up time for education, employment, political organizing, and personal pursuits. Some historians argue that the washing machine did more to advance women's liberation than political movements because it actually returned time and physical capacity that had been stolen by domestic labor. But there's a darker side to this story. The commercialization of washing machines created a new expectation that clothes should be washed after every single wearing. Before washing machines, clothes were worn multiple times between washings because laundry was so laborious. With easy washing, cleanliness standards escalated. Suddenly, wearing the same shirt twice was dirty. Children's clothes needed washing after one wear. Towels needed washing constantly. The convenience of washing machines increased laundry volume so dramatically that women were still spending significant time on laundry, just doing more of it with less effort per load. The environmental impact became catastrophic. Americans now do roughly 300 loads of laundry per year on average. Each load uses 15 to 40 gallons of water, electricity for heating and agitation, and synthetic detergents that pollute waterways. The convenience that freed women from brutal labor also created a massive environmental footprint. March 2020, a global pandemic forces everyone into lockdown. Suddenly, people aren't going anywhere. They're wearing comfortable clothes at home. Gym clothes don't get sweaty from commutes. Work clothes don't get exposed to offices and public transit. And people started washing clothes less frequently. What had been automatic wash after every wear, became optional. Many discovered that clothes didn't actually need washing after every single use. Jeans could be worn multiple times, sweaters didn't need constant washing. Towels could last a full week. The washing machine industry panicked briefly. Detergent sales declined, people were using machines less often. But the pandemic also revealed how much we'd gone overwashing, wasting water, electricity, and wearing out clothes unnecessarily. Today, modern washing machines are marvels of engineering. Front-loading machines use 50% less water than top-loaders. High-efficiency detergents work in cold water, eliminating the energy cost of heating. Sensors adjust water levels and cycle times based on load size. Some machines can even automatically dose detergent. But the fundamental problem remains. We're still doing laundry. It's still a time tax on households, mostly on women who still do roughly 65% of household laundry, even in dual-income households. The machines are convenient, but they haven't eliminated the labor. They've just changed its nature from backbreaking physical work to invisible emotional labor of managing household systems. Washing machines didn't just clean clothes. They transformed domestic labor from a health-destroying, time-consuming ordeal into a manageable household task. They freed women from work that literally killed them. They enabled women to pursue education and careers that would have been impossible while spending 8 to 12 hours per week beating wet fabric against rocks. From ancient Egyptians beating laundry on riverbanks, to medieval women scalded by boiling lye, to washerwomen who died in their 30s from laundry-related illness, to forgotten female inventors whose innovations were stolen by men, to a modern pandemic that made us question why we'd been overwashing everything. This everyday appliance carries a history of women's labor exploitation, stolen innovation, and genuine liberation. And the women who invented the key innovations that made washing machines work, the ones who understood laundry because they actually did it, died without recognition, while men collected patents and profits. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Parts That Made Us. If you found this fascinating and maybe horrifying, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment below with any other everyday objects you'd like us to explore. Next week, we're getting cold, the history of refrigeration, and the toxic gas that was in every American home until it started killing children. Until then, take a look around. History is everywhere, hiding in the parts that made us who we are. Even in that washing machine in your laundry room, carrying the history of women who died doing the work it now does in 45 minutes.